Here's a surprise. Despite how much it gets talked about in psychological, therapeutic, and spiritual paradigms, there's technically no such thing as an ego. At least not in the same way that, say, your wallet exists, right? You can't find your ego, pick it up, and put it in your pocket. And that's because what's typically referred to as ego is just like a mishmash conglomerate of thoughts. And you can't pick up a thought and look at it either, right? Thoughts are unfindable. All you can do is sort of hear or sense them in your consciousness, right? The person next to you can't see your thoughts, hopefully. So what's usually labeled ego in reality is like a process of protection. Eckhart Tolle defines ego as a false, mind-made sense of self, and that checks out. Mind-made because it's made of thoughts, and false sense of self because it's the result of burying and repressing what's true, which usually means emotions. So in other words, the ego or false self is the result of emotional repression. The ego of an anger repressor looks like people pleasing and fake kindness. And the ego of a hurt or vulnerability repressor looks like overcompensation or fake toughness, false power. But see how it's not a thing or a noun? It's more like an act or a verb or a process, yeah? That happens unconsciously and compulsively because of buried and repressed emotions in the body. Now, the fact that this egoing happens unconsciously and automatically is important because it means two things. One is, when it's unconscious, you don't have any choice over it or any control. And two is, if and when you decide to make it conscious, then you regain the power of choice and control. And this is exactly the work that we do in the Kill Be inquiries. The emotional repression work makes the unconscious conscious in a really direct, effective, and efficient way. For an anger repressor, to progressively end egoing, which is also synonymous with suffering, by the way, is to find all of the programs in their body that are running, that are saying, don't get angry, and make those conscious over a period of time, thereby coming out of anger repression. And for a hurt and vulnerability repressor, same deal, but with hurt and vulnerability. We just want to make the unconscious repression commands conscious. Now, this may sound simple, but it's actually pretty tricky because the egoing and the suffering it creates is actually like our security system. And so as we're trying to come out of emotional repression and end our suffering, it's going to fight back a lot and in very clever ways. Which is why having a mentor in KI's emotional repression work can be so helpful, because it's someone who's gone ahead, who's already gone through the process. They can help you and point out pitfalls and obstacles, which is what helps you get really skillful in your own KI self-practice. So if you're interested in doing this work and would like a mentor, then tap the link in the caption or the bio.